Harsher on other people than you are on yourself. That's a very interesting thing to say. Where does it come from? What does it mean? So it could be in a lot of ways sort of a reframe of the idea that you should love your neighbor like yourself, or that which was unpleasant to you, don't kind of inflict upon your neighbor. But one of the things that we see so often that I've been through in the trenches on a very dark and deep level, and I'm working with people, frankly, that are really coming through this in a very meaningful and difficult way, is the idea that we have a tendency to be so harsh on ourselves, but so forgiving on other people. And that is a result, of course, of the state of the affairs, the state of the world that we have today, where you're seeing all of these people, all of these thought leaders, all the perfect people who come across and they have everything, right? And you feel to yourself like, I'm not that person. And so therefore I can't have a voice. Therefore I'm not important. Therefore I'm pathetic. And what's really fascinating is if you study, and for me, frankly, and this is something where I'm very candid about it, and I appreciate how, frankly, controversial it is that I study people. I study success, and I don't just try to look for what's good. I look for what opportunity, strategic. This is like the idea of being a student of the game, right? Like in the speaking game, I look at things. So something that comes out all the time is, you look at a any bunch. We'll leave it like nice and anonymous so that we'll protect it. But if you look at a lot of these influencers, right? So you say to yourself, "Wow, you're so centered, you're so calm, you're so wonderful. Are you married? In some cases, no. Do you have children? In some cases, in most cases, no. And if you have kids, like how old are they, right? And what's going on in your life? So right away, and I've had people say this to me, like one of the reasons why they like working with an Orthodox coach who has kids is like I get it, and I do get it, right? On the flip side, you'll look at people and you think to yourself, "This is a thought leader." Again, in the Jewish world, let's be very candid. In the Jewish world, this is a thought leader, and you say to yourself, "They have such they must." The fact that they have so many followers or so many people of prominence that are kind of like coming to them implies that they must have really wonderful things to say, or they might be at a certain level of their spirituality, their Jewish life that I can't, I'm not, I shouldn't. And only once I have such wonderful things to say, or that I have such, that I will go work really hard and then eventually I will be discovered. The whole thing's complete nonsense, frankly. And what you have to do if you study the game, you look at who's out there giving content that their followers can actually make their own. How many people are just running a personality cult? And a personality cult, the way it goes is that the people are following them, not necessarily for what they say, but for how they look, for how they talk, for the all of this kind of stuff. And you say to yourself like, well, that's not great. Just evidence in the back. You're screaming in the back, like whatever, I don't care, right? So the idea is that we don't want to build personality cults. As leaders, we don't want to build personality cults because essentially what that's doing is you're taking people that are not happy with who they are. You have people that are weak or again, and this is something that's very fundamental in all kinds of the organizational work that we do, is it's like, are you there to help other people? Are you there to serve yourself? Are people following you because you have something deep to say or because you're a good looking person? And I get it, you know what I'm saying? And the idea is that you have to, first of all, figure out what game you're playing. Right, so if you're playing a game where you want to compete in a personality context and a personality game where you are trying to be somebody else, or you're trying to come up with great like deep ideas, but the people that are in the game are just like have charismatic personalities, you're much better trying to figure out how to win in the game you're actually playing. And if you don't pay attention to that game and what's going on and why people are following them, and again, for me it was awful. I knew a person that was an amazing speaker that was so influential, and from the very beginning of the time, I knew that this person was also controversial and had a hard time with relationships and had people, again, not organizational relationships, and was kind of a difficult boss. And I always thought like, well, this person's a big individual and judging, and it must be that everyone else is wrong. And then I started looking closer, and I'm like, this person has a personality problem. This person is not someone that I want to be like. And it took me 10 years to realize that this person that I was trying to be, I didn't want to be, but only because I was judging them favorably in a way that I wasn't willing to judge myself favorably. And that's the whole idea, is that we're so quick to judge other people favorably. You see someone that's so put together and you're like, it must be that everything else in this person's life is put together. And then you look at your own life and you're like, well, I have one part of my life that's put together, but I'm a complete mess everywhere else. And the answer is like, no, you have to either If you have to use the lens that you judge yourself to judge other people. If you're going to look critically at yourself, you have to look critically at everybody else. Why? Because you see that everybody else is just a person. That's the whole point, right? And again, I ask questions. I ask awkward questions that I think are in line with reality, and I just look at it and I think about it. It's like again, for me, the idea that you'd have a Jewish influencer who I would think to myself, you have to have fantastic content, and then I listen to some stuff and I'm like, that's pretty basic. That's not terribly intelligent. Then I'm like, well, why are people following them? And it's like, well, maybe they have a position. Maybe they were put in a position. Maybe they're exceptional at something else. Maybe they're very good looking. Maybe they have a great personality, right? And so suddenly I'm like, okay, well, if my definition of a successful, influencer is they have to have great content, so then I should work on my own content, but I shouldn't compare myself to them because these people, they might not have great content, right? So you have to learn how to be a student of the game. You have to be super dialed in as to what you're actually doing. And frankly, the greatest value in my life that I've been able to get is because I learned to take it easy on myself. I take it easy on other people, right? I really do. At least I hope so, right? I try to be infinitely forgiving. I try to be infinitely compassionate and understand people and say, it is what it is and you're doing the best job you can. But I realized that until I got very, very dialed into it, I realized I didn't do that to myself. And as a result, I was always feeling bad about myself and feeling like everyone else was better off and everyone else had it all figured out. Frankly, nobody has it figured out. People are just able to allow themselves to get out there and to inspire without having it figured out. And that's, for me, the biggest thing. Because once I realized I don't have to have it all together in order to go out and inspire people who just were looking for something and looking for that lesson to be okay with themselves and go out and do your own thing in your own life and just do the best job you can. It was next to impossible to me. So I just want to, hopefully that's encouraging for people that you should be as tough on yourself as you are on the outside world, or the reverse is, and really what we should be saying is be as compassionate as you are in yourself as you are to other people. And once you realize that, this humanity comes out and it's really a beautiful thing. Thank you very much.